Okay, so today we're going deep on U.S.-India relations.
All right.
And wow, listener name, you really outdid yourself with these sources. I mean,
Yeah.
you've got everything here: trade, defense, tech, even space.
It's quite a bit.
It is. It's a lot to untangle. So before we dive into all of that,
Sure.
what's the one thing you really want to get a handle on with this relationship?
Hmm.
What's the big question you're hoping to answer?
Well, I'm happy to help answer that.
Okay.
This is a really dynamic relationship, and we're going to unpack all the layers.
Perfect. So let's start with just how intertwined
Sure.
these two economies are right now.
Okay.
Like, I know there's trade happening,
Uh-huh.
but how big are we talking?
Well, we're talking over $72 billion in goods traded
Whoa,
in early 2024 alone.
that's a lot.
And that makes the U.S. India's top trading partner.
Wow.
But it's not just about buying and selling stuff.
Okay, so what else?
So Indian tech startups
Okay.
attracted over $10 billion in U.S. venture capital last year.
Really?
And that's a huge show of confidence.
Oh.
Yeah. From American investors.
I see.
And it shows how important these Indian companies are becoming,
Uh-huh.
especially in tech and pharmaceuticals.
So it's not just India selling to the U.S.
Right.
It's Indian companies becoming players in the U.S. economy.
Exactly. And there's so much potential for growth
I bet.
on both sides.
That's incredible.
Yeah, this relationship could really change global trade
Wow.
and create entirely new industries.
Okay, so a major economic power couple.
Yes.
But let's talk defense.
Okay.
There's a lot of talk about their defense partnership.
Yeah.
So are they just buying and selling weapons?
Well, it goes way beyond that.
Okay.
They're actually building military tech together now.
Really, like sharing blueprints, the whole 9 yards?
Yep, co-production, sharing information.
That's some serious trust.
Yeah.
What's driving that level of cooperation?
Well, a few things. First, you have Quad,
Quite.
the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue,
Gotcha.
which brings together the U.S., India, Japan, and Australia to work on security in the Indo-Pacific.
So that's like a strategic alliance.
Right.
But how are they actually sharing military tech?
So that's where these foundational agreements come in.
Oh,
Things like Lamoa, Comcasa, and Bikika.
that sounds like alphabet soup.
It does, but they're really important
Okay.
for their military cooperation.
Like, what does Lamoa do, for example?
So Lamoa lets the U.S. and India
Uh.
share logistical support, like refueling ships at each other's ports.
So it's like making their operations more efficient.
Exactly. They can respond faster as a combined force.
That's a big deal.
It is.
Okay, so we can't ignore the elephant in the room,
Right.
or I guess the dragon,
Uh-huh.
China.
Right.
How does China factor into all of this?
Well, the U.S. sees this partnership with India
Okay.
as a way to balance out China's growing influence.
I see.
It's about making sure the Indo-Pacific stays stable and open.
So there's a strategic element here, for sure.
Definitely.
But I'm also seeing the U.S. and India teaming up in tech and energy, Yeah. cutting-edge stuff. What's
Yeah.
going on there?
Well, American companies are helping India grow
Okay.
in areas like semiconductors,
All right.
artificial intelligence, even quantum computing.
Quantum computing, that sounds like sci-fi.
It does, but they're working on it.
Wow. Are they really collaborating on that level?
They are, and it's not just about the U.S. and India.
Really?
You have things like the U.S.-India Global Digital Development Partnership.
What's that?
So this initiative uses tech to drive economic growth, not just in their own countries, but across Asia and Africa.
So it's like this ripple effect of innovation.
Exactly.
Wow.
And then there's energy.
Right?
The U.S. is a big supplier, helping India move to cleaner energy.
So, like, what specifically?
Well, we're talking about a lot of LNG imports from the U.S.
Okay.
to keep India's lights on, and there are also big investments
Yeah.
in renewable energy projects happening in India.
So it's like they're working together on everything.
Yeah, it's a very broad partnership.
That's amazing.
It is.
But no relationship is perfect.
That's true.
And we have to talk about the bumps in the road, too.
You do.
And, we've got to address the elephant,
Or a dragon.
right, the dragon in the room again.
Mm-hmm.
Russia.
Right.
India has close ties with Russia.
They do.
And that causes some friction with the U.S.
Definitely.
So what are some of the specific issues there?
Well, a big one is the S-400 missile defense system
Oh, right.
that India bought from Russia.
I remember that.
That raised a lot of concerns in Washington.
I bet.
And it showed that India has its own interests
Yeah.
and won't always agree with the U.S.
So while they have shared goals,
Yes.
there are some things they don't see eye to eye on.
Absolutely. This is a complex relationship
Jeez.
that's constantly changing.
I'm fascinated by it.
Yeah, it's a really interesting dynamic.
Okay, so we've talked about all this geopolitics
Yeah.
and these strategic moves,
Yeah.
but we have to talk about the people.
Yes, the human element is crucial.
Right. I've got some stats here
Go.
about the Indian diaspora in the U.S.
Let's hear them.
that are pretty mind-blowing.
All right, let's dive in. Yeah, it really is fascinating when you think about it.
It is.
We talk about all this geopolitical stuff,
Right.
but the people are really the foundation of the relationship.
They are. It's the stories, the connections that really make it come alive.
Exactly.
And speaking of stories,
Yeah.
one thing that stood out to me from the research was healthcare.
Oh, yeah.
Like, COVID really shook things up.
It did.
Did the U.S. and India even work together during the pandemic?
Yeah, they did.
Really?
It actually showed how important their cooperation is.
Like how...
Remember those early days when supply chains were totally messed up?
Oh, yeah. Everything was so chaotic.
It was.
Yeah.
And India became a really crucial supplier
Okay.
for generic drugs to the U.S.
Like, how much are we talking?
They supplied 40% of U.S. generic drug demand during that time.
40%? That's huge.
It is.
Wow. So they were really able to collaborate, even during a global crisis.
They were.
But is it just about supplying medicine?
No, it goes deeper than that.
Okay.
You have the Indo-U.S. Health Dialogue, for example, which is this platform for both countries to work together.
On what?
On things like disease surveillance,
Okay.
pandemic preparedness,
That makes sense.
and even research and development.
So they're sharing knowledge,
Right.
pooling resources, getting ready for future challenges?
Exactly. It's a smart approach.
It is, because a health crisis anywhere can impact everyone.
It can. That's the reality of the world today.
It is. So they're thinking long-term.
Yes.
You know what else is long-term? Space.
Oh, yeah.
What about space exploration?
Well, they're definitely collaborating there, too.
I mean, India's space program has come a long way.
It has.
What are they working on with the U.S.?
Well, NASA and ISRO.
ISR.
Yeah, the Indian Space Research Organization.
Okay.
They're working on some really cool projects together.
Like what? Give me the details.
So one of the most exciting ones is the NISAR mission.
NISAR.
It stands for NASA ISRO Synthetic Aperture Radar.
Okay, so it's a radar thing.
They're launching a satellite with this advanced radar tech
Uh-huh.
that can map the Earth's surface in crazy detail.
So they're basically getting a super detailed map of Earth.
Yes.
What do you even do with that?
Well, it has a ton of uses.
Okay.
Like tracking changes in the environment.
So like climate change?
Exactly.
Wow.
And predicting natural disasters.
Oh.
Managing resources, even supporting agriculture.
So using space to solve Earth's problems.
Precisely.
That's incredible.
It is. And it's really just the beginning
Hmm.
for their space cooperation. They could work on anything.
Like what?
Human spaceflight exploring the solar system.
So listener name, get ready for Indian astronauts on the moon.
Maybe one day.
That's amazing.
It is.
But let's come back down to Earth for a minute
Right.
and talk about the Indian diaspora.
Okay.
You mentioned it earlier.
I did.
What's so important about this community?
Well, it really shows what this partnership can be.
Okay.
Remember we said it's not just about transactions?
Right. It's about something bigger.
Exactly. It's about shared hopes.
Okay.
A belief in innovation, building a future together.
I like that.
And the Indian diaspora is a great example of that.
Tell me more.
So this community is a real force in American society.
I can imagine.
Over 4 million people of Indian origin.
Wow.
Contributing their talents and ideas everywhere.
That's a lot of people.
It is. And they're making a huge impact.
I remember reading that they sent over $125 billion back to India.
Yeah, in remittances just in 2023.
That's incredible.
It is. But their impact goes beyond just economics.
Okay, so what else are they doing?
Well, if they're making their mark in politics,
right,
business, academia, the arts, everything you can think of.
So they're really woven into American life.
They are.
And shaping the country.
Yes.
That's amazing.
It is. But we have to be realistic.
Right.
No relationship is perfect.
Yeah, we've talked about some of the challenges, trade tensions and geopolitics. But what other bumps in the road are there?
A big one.
Yeah.
Especially for Indian IT professionals.
Okay.
Is the issue of visas and immigration.
Oh, right. I've heard about that.
It's a big deal.
What's the problem?
So the H-1B visa program, which lets skilled workers come to the U.S., has gotten a lot stricter. And that affects Indian IT companies and all the Indian professionals working in the U.S.
It sounds really complicated.
It is.
Like, what are the different sides of the issue?
Well, you have people worried about protecting American jobs.
Right.
And making sure the immigration system is fair.
That makes sense.
But then you also have the benefits of attracting global talent.
Like economic growth and new ideas.
Exactly.
And we can't forget about the human cost.
Yeah.
We're talking about families being separated, dreams put on hold.
That's true.
It shows that policies have real impacts on people's lives.
They do.
Yeah.
There are over 1 million Indians waiting for green cards.
Really?
And those delays can take years, even decades.
Wow.
That's a tough situation.
It is, and it reminds us that even strategic partnerships are about people.
They are, at the end of the day.
Okay, so what else could be a challenge?
Sometimes there are misunderstandings.
What do you mean?
Like, even though they both speak English,
yeah,
there can be cultural differences in communication.
Like what?
Like business etiquette. Or even humor.
Oh, yeah.
That can cause confusion.
So it's like they're speaking the same language, but talking past each other.
Yeah, sometimes that happens.
And that can affect things like negotiations.
It can.
Wow.
And even diplomatic relations.
So how do they prevent that from happening?
Well, it's about building understanding.
Okay.
Promoting cultural exchange.
Right.
Having people interact more. And encouraging open dialogue.
So basically being more open to each other.
Exactly. It's about seeing diversity as a strength.
That's a good point.
And learning from each other.
Yeah, I think that's a great transition to talking about the future of this relationship.
It is despite the challenges.
Yeah.
They both really want to build something special together.
All right, so we've talked about a lot.
We have.
Economics, defense, China, the people.
It's been a journey.
It has, but now let's look ahead.
Okay.
What's next for the U.S. and India?
That's the big question.
It is. What should we be watching for?
Well, we know they're already collaborating.
Yeah.
In some pretty advanced fields.
Right, like cutting-edge stuff.
But imagine if they go even deeper into things like AI development, quantum computing.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Are we talking about them co-developing?
Potentially.
Some of the most powerful tech in the world?
It's possible.
That could be incredible.
It could.
But also a little scary.
Yeah, there are definitely ethical concerns.
Especially with AI in defense.
Exactly.
Like what happens if they create autonomous weapons?
That's a big question.
It is a huge one.
With global implications.
Okay, so AI and quantum computing.
Yeah.
Those are the big flashy headlines.
They are.
But what about more practical stuff?
Like what?
Like supply chains.
Yeah.
With China being such a big factor.
Right.
How will this partnership affect that?
Well, that's where it gets interesting.
Okay, tell me more.
Right now, both countries rely heavily on China for critical minerals and semiconductors.
Right, everything needs those.
Everything.
So what if they team up to build new supply chains?
That's the idea.
To rely less on China.
Exactly.
Wow, that would be a game changer.
It would.
We're talking about shifting manufacturing, creating jobs, reshaping entire industries.
It would be huge.
And strategically, they'd be less vulnerable if China ever disrupts things.
It's about diversifying and creating stability.
Makes sense. No one wants to be caught off guard.
No, they don't.
Okay, so what about energy?
Yeah.
We talked about LNG from the U.S.
Right.
But where does that go from here?
Well, as India keeps moving toward cleaner energy, the U.S. can be a really valuable partner.
Like?
Well, the U.S. has a lot of expertise.
In what?
Nuclear technology renewables.
Okay.
Imagine them working together.
Okay.
On next-gen solar panels.
Wow.
Sharing knowledge about smart grids.
Interesting.
Even collaborating on carbon capture tech.
So a greener future for both.
Yes.
And a chance to lead the world in clean energy.
Exactly.
But let's be real. Right. There are going to be challenges.
There always are.
We've talked about the trade stuff, the visa issues, and the whole Russia-China thing.
Right. India's got a lot to juggle.
They do, but there's something else.
What's
something that people don't always think about?
I'm curious.
Misaligned expectations.
Oh, that's a good one.
Like, they might have the same vision, but different goals or timelines. The U.S. might want to move faster, while India's more cautious.
It happens all the time.
So they need to manage those expectations.
They do.
Find common ground.
It's crucial for any partnership.
So communication and patience are key.
Absolutely.
Because if they get this right, if they build on the trust they already have,
it could be
this partnership could really change the world.
It could. Think about it.
Okay.
Two of the world's biggest democracies.
Yeah.
With strong economies and a shared belief in innovation.
working together to solve global problems.
It's a powerful combination.
Listener name. What do you think?
Yeah. What are your thoughts on all of this?
What stood out to you as we went through this?
It's a complex relationship.
It is.
But with a lot of potential.
And as you think about all of this, as you watch this partnership evolve, ask yourself this.
Okay.
What role will you play in shaping this future?
That's a great question.
How can you contribute to the dialogue, to the exchange of ideas, to building bridges between these two countries?
It's up to all of us.
This isn't just happening on the world stage.
Right.
It affects all of us.
We're all connected.
Keep exploring.
Yeah.
Keep asking those tough questions.
Don't be afraid to challenge things.
And stay engaged.
That's the most important thing.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.